Okay, I think we can get started. Welcome everybody to our IRA webinar series part 2. My name is Dolores Riley. I'm with Resideo Technologies. Today we'll be covering IRA rebate programs, what you need to know, and how you actually can use it in your business. Today our presenter will be Cynthia Adams, who is the CEO of Pearl Certification. Before I introduce her, I just wanted to go over a couple of introduction slides regarding who Resideo is. These are our brands. Resideo is the umbrella brand, and under our umbrella we have ADI, Honeywell Home, First Alert, and Genesis. Our brand promise: we help you to protect what matters most. This is a snapshot of who we are as a company by the numbers, our annual revenue, our product and solutions market, as well as our ADI sales. A little bit more about who we are. We are in 11.3 million homes as connected devices. We have over 200 distribution locations. We are the #1 global distributor of security and Energy Star products. And you can see we're in 150 million households as well. Next slide, please. This is a snapshot of the product and solutions portfolio. You can see we're in several different lines of business, including air, security and safety, water, as well as energy. And now I'd like to introduce Cynthia Adams, who will be taking us through our webinar today.
Thank you so much, Dolores. And I'm unable to start video. I need you to turn it back over to me, please. Please let me know when you have. I continue to try and start my video camera, and it is not advancing or opening. I can continue without people looking at me too, because the content on the slides is more important. But
okay, I'll work on it as you present. No problem.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Good afternoon or good morning, depending upon where you are in the world today. Appreciate you taking time out of your very busy day to learn more about the Inflation Reduction Act, what you need to know, and how you can actually use it in your business. A quick review of the agenda. I'm going to have a brief introduction of Pearl, the company that I'm with. Then we're going to go into an overview, and I will talk some about the tax credits and the rebates. And if you attended the first webinar that I did, some of this may be redundant. There's a lot of information in it, though, so you may find yourself picking up things that you didn't catch before. And kind of woven into that, I've got a bunch of new information that came out as a result of the U.S. Department of Energy publishing their guidelines for the grant applications. Those guidelines were published in July. And then we'll talk about some ideas specifically that you should be considering if you're thinking about hopping in and making this a part of your business model during the duration of these grants. They will be around for some years, and most states will be implementing programs for them. So lots to consider there. All righty. And looks like my video is up. So hello again, I'm Cynthia Adams. And we'll go ahead and keep moving through this presentation. Whoops. Got to move the cursor there. A little bit about Pearl certification. Our role in the world is to document heating, cooling, and plumbing installations to help homes sell and appraise for more. And contractors across the US use us to help differentiate their services from low quality and low priced competitors, so that they present a better value proposition to their customers, one that ties their work to the home's equity. Pearl has certified over 175,000 homes, and our network includes not only contractors, but real estate agents and homeowners that use our consumer-facing platform called Green Door. And we have a whole bunch of very reputable, high-quality folks that work in our network today, some of whom you no doubt recognize from this slide. So if you were interested in Pearl, you're going to hear a little bit more at the very end of this presentation with a special offer that we have for you as a result of our partnership with Resideo. Okay, let's dive in here. If you have heard about the Inflation Reduction Act, as no doubt you have, from colleagues, from your OEM, from maybe a trade organization that you belong to, from some accounts, it's the land of milk and honey. From others, it's going to be a huge market distorting pain in the patootie. Which version of that this set of programs will actually turn out to be, we all are very much waiting to see. But I think it's important to recognize no matter what level of complexity they may have, there is an enormous amount of money that will be coming into our market. And there will be those companies that figure out how to take advantage of it, how to make more efficient the processes associated with it, and make bank. The question is whether or not you're going to be one of them. So let's talk more about the substance of the programs and some of the things you should be thinking about to prepare. So the Inflation Reduction Act's role is to provide tax credits through the federal government and rebates for energy efficient purchases through an electrification program and an energy efficiency upgrade program. And these programs are administered through the state energy offices. So not through the federal government, all of the funding comes from the federal government. It's really at the local level, at the state level, that these programs will be created and implemented. And the rebates are meant to focus on low and moderate income homeowners. They are an outreach of an administrative initiative called the Justice 40 Initiative that directs federal investment to flow most to the 40% of low income households that we have here in the US. And if that number seems staggering to you, it definitely seemed staggering to me, but that is the average number of low income households that we have in the US. And traditionally, these folks have only participated at about 13% in federal programs that bring rebates. And so this time around, the Inflation Reduction Act is meant to do things differently and really focus, really target these households that need the help the most with the federal funding. So let's talk about the tax credits to start out with. The tax credits are available in market today, starting January 1st of this year, and they are a credit, meaning you have to have tax liability in order to take advantage of them. There is no such thing as a tax rebate. If you hear somebody using those two words together, it's like a spaghetti sundae. Those two things do not belong together. It is in fact a credit. And there's a number of things for which one can earn the credit. The one that might be of most interest to many of you on the call is a $2,000 tax credit available for a heat pump. So there are additional tax credits available for other building envelope improvements and other types of products like water heating, furnace, boiler, and electrical improvements. But the total limit for any given calendar year is $3,200 for that homeowner. So it can be a combination of a heat pump and other improvements that get the homeowner to that $3,200 a year credit. And the homeowner can max out the credit year over year. So you could get a heat pump for one part of your house in 1 year and take that tax credit. And then the next calendar year, you could get installed another heat pump, take that tax credit, and leverage them to your advantage. I would say as a contractor, if you're working with people who have multiple systems, larger homes, or maybe they have a vacation home or some other type of rental property, understanding these tax credits is important. And I shouldn't have said rental property because they only apply to owner-occupied houses. So let me make that correction right now. But there are ways to manage an upgrade program such that your homeowner is really thoughtful in being able to optimize credits and rebates as they make their improvements. The tax credits, as I said a moment ago, caught myself, only apply to existing homes and remodels, not to new construction, and must be owner-occupied. And there are various performance criteria needed for the different types of install, primarily Energy Star related, but I did include a link here in this presentation, and we will PDF this presentation, and the folks at Resideo can share it out with the callers here so that you can click through on these live links and go and check out some of the resources that I've embedded in it. For the HVAC equipment specs, though, the equipment all must be rated at a SEER 2, and there are other types of efficiency ratings associated with HSPF, et cetera. Also, this is just a quick snapshot. Again, if you go to the ahrinet.org CEE directory link that I have here, they have a full inventory of available products that qualify for the tax credit. A couple of bits of miscellaneous information there. The tax credit is only applicable for the tax year that you were submitting your taxes. If you had you can't carry it over to the next tax year. You can, as I mentioned before, qualify for the maximum amount in multiple years. You can not apply. I'm going to talk about these rebate programs. Let me just say that the rebates and the tax credits can both apply to the same install for the same house. And you as a contractor really need to be thinking about, are you providing your homeowners with the information, with the backup they're going to need should they get audited for this particular tax credit? They will need to have product literature or some other documentation that describes the efficiency rating for the installed system. They will need to know the cost of the system, the date that it was installed, to have the bare minimum as backup for that tax credit. Many contractors right now are starting to tag, or started months ago to tag, these qualifying installations in their CRMs, because it is likely that when your homeowner gets to January 1st of 2024 and their tax accountant's reaching out to them, or they're fiddling around with TurboTax, someone's going to let them know that, hey, did you install this type of equipment in the last year, in which case you may be eligible for tax credits. So make sure that you're tracking these things, make sure that you're giving your customers the right information now, so that your customer service reps are not going crazy when we slip over into tax season next year. The clean energy tax credits have been expanded this year. They are allowable for qualifying installations up to 30% of the cost, and it covers labor as well as the install. And of note here for HVAC companies or plumbers would be the geothermal heat pumps, and then new this year are battery storage and roofing shingles and some other things. So depending upon what your trade is, or maybe you partner with other trades, there's an opportunity here to bring this advantage to your customers and help them get comfortable with closing the deal. Okie dokie, moving on. I periodically interspersed in this presentation a couple of happy photos of calming views, because it's otherwise just a sea of bullets and information. So this is your moment of Zen. Enjoy it while we're here, because now it's time to move on to the rebate programs. Okay, let's talk about the rebate programs. These are going to be around for a while, through September of 2031. A couple of things to note about this, because I know there are a lot of contractors that have asked me, where the heck are these rebate programs? They passed this legislation in August of 22. Why haven't the states launched anything yet? Again, the answer to that is because the U.S. Department of Energy needed to take some time to kind of figure out a whole bunch of program specifics and publish them in a guideline booklet that accompanies the state application. That came out in July. And so now states are rapidly getting together their programs and requests for information and other things. So some notes of things that came out in the guidelines. The funding is really meant to be braided. So a homeowner can take advantage of a rebate that comes through IRA, but they can also take advantage of a rebate that comes from their manufacturer or that comes from their utility. The electrification rebate and the home energy efficiency rebates, these are two separate programs in IRA. They cannot be combined for the same installation. And states are going to have to track what home and what install got what rebate to make sure that there's no double dipping. A reminder, though, that you can combine a rebate with a tax credit. And part of the application that states are sending to the DOE has to include their implementation blueprint, which would be how the program is going to roll out. It'll include things like marketing and budget and what contractor qualifications might be. They have to include a market transformation plan, which I'll definitely talk more about. They have to include a data privacy and quality assurance plan. And you can bet both of those may touch the modeling software, and quality assurance, of course, is going to touch the work that is done by the contractor. And then lastly, they have to meet tranches of low-income household targets. And then the funding comes in tranches, 25% tranches. And as the states meet particular goals, the DOE will release to that state another tranche of their grant money. Both of the programs are going to require some energy modeling. The electrification program will be a lesser lift on that. I'll talk more about that in a moment, but the main requirement there is that the contractor models utility bill impacts, because again, if you're doing fuel switching, which is certainly what electrification implies, you don't want to be in a situation where the homeowner has a more efficient electric system, but because electricity costs more than gas in their neck of the woods, they actually are spending more month over month on their energy bills. That's a very bad situation for a low-income household. With the energy efficiency, the whole house energy efficiency rebate program, the threshold is modeled energy savings, and so there's kind of no way around doing it in order to understand what rebate the house even qualifies for. So just a heads up, modeling is going to be required with both of them. The modeling tools will likely have to be on a list of DOE approved tools. It will not be a free-for-all where anybody's modeling engine counts. So that'll be something you want to keep an eye on with your state as their program gets going. Talking a little bit more about things that the states have to do. One of the things is a consumer protection plan that will identify installation standards with which installers have to comply, including at a minimum standards that of course meet your local laws, but that also have a minimum quality installation standard for the rebated technologies, and promote standardized and sequenced procedures for developing a detailed project scope of work. Both of the rebate programs do require commissioning on installed heat pumps. So that's just something to know. There will be some performance testing on the installed heat pumps. And states will have to establish a process to enforce these installation standards, including quality assurance processes that allow the state to verify and document whether or not their installation standards have been met. And they also want to make sure that we don't have unscrupulous salespeople out there selling one thing, but putting something different in the contract language. So there'll be some rules around ensuring that consumers sign off and are aware of what they're buying when they participate in these programs. So this is all important stuff for you to consider as a contractor. And I've certainly met contractors that are really passionate about doing quality installations, some of whom may be involved in training programs. And so you're going to want to engage your state on how they're putting their consumer protection plan together, because a lot of that will have to do with how you do work in these programs. In addition, the state's community benefits plan must describe the state's approach to working with responsible contractors who invest in ongoing workforce education and training, and ensuring jobs are of sufficient quality to attract and retain skilled workers in the home energy upgrade industry. If the state is not applying for a grant, that is a contractor training grant, the state has to describe how it's going to support education and training for new and incumbent workers to meet the needs of home efficiency rebates. So what this particular section is telling you here is that there's $200 million available for states for contractor training grants, making sure that the workforce knows how to install a heat pump correctly or how to do an energy audit correctly. And there'll be a lot of funding coming in to do more workforce development so that you can either train people on your team or find competent hires to go out and build a bigger team. Again, if this is something that you are tied into already in your state or are keenly interested in, I hope you'll reach out, have some conversations with maybe your local ACCA chapter, if that's relevant to you, or with your state energy office or other types of training programs that you are aware of. Oops, wrong way there. Okay, let's talk specifically about the electrification rebate program. This is a point of sale rebate program. It is for a first-time purchase of a heat pump, and you can only do one rebate per one installation per household. So we can't replace 5 heat pumps in a household with 5 different heat pump rebates. And you can't replace an existing heat pump with a new heat pump. It has to be a first-time purchase. Interestingly, there is up to $500 in additional incentive for contractors to complete work in a low-income home. For example, you can get $300 if you install heat pump in the electrification program. And if you install it in a low-income household, you can get $200. And this is just incentive money. Thank you to the contractor for working with us to target the right households in this program. So just an additional $500 that comes to the contractor for completing work up to that amount in a low-income household. Electrification applies to both new and existing construction. How states will know that a particular household qualifies for this program, because this is an income qualification related program. One way that they'll do it is through categorical eligibility, meaning they will develop lists of homeowners that participate in other federal programs where they've already income qualified. And then a contractor will be able to work with the state site and know automatically that that homeowner is categorically eligible for these rebate programs. If the household is less, if their combined income is less than 80% of the area median income, they can get up to 100% of their costs paid for that installation. And if the household income falls between 80% and 150% of area median income, the rebate can cover up to 50%. I have mentioned that households can't receive more than one rebate for an appliance of a single type. For the heat pump rebate in the total cost can include things like smart thermostats, the pad for the equipment, ductwork, and other things that may be relevant. The heat pump does have to displace the majority of the heating and cooling needs, and there will be proof of commissioning for HVAC installed. Rebates are required to be delivered to the eligible recipient, which will likely be the contractor or potentially some kind of a lender or a rebate bridge aggregator within 4 weeks, though. So if you're wondering, gosh, if I participate in this program, it's a point of sale rebate, I got to take it like right off the cost of the system. How long am I going to be waiting around? Well, the DOE requirements are that the states have to get that rebate to the recipient within 4 weeks of the completion of the job. So a lot more new information baked into this slide than if you were here for my first presentation a little while ago. These again are the rebates that we're talking about, though. $8,000 available for a heat pump, $1,750 available for a heat pump water heater, and then there is funding available for replacing the electric load service center, replacing electrical wiring that may need to be done in an older home in order to even install a heat pump. And then there is funding for insulation, air sealing, and ventilation. All in, the household would top out at $14,000 per home. Let's talk a little bit about the heat pump assessment requirements. This again is new as of the guidelines publishing. The recommendation of a properly sized unit from a qualified contractor will be a part of it. You will have to do an on-site visual inspection of the existing condition of the ducts and potentially envelope. If the upgrade includes a fuel switch, I mentioned that you have to do an estimate of the utility bill impacts. And if those bill impacts are going to be such that the bills are higher, the customer will actually have to sign off on stating that they've read that, they understand it, and they're okay with going forward and replacing the system anyway. If there is an amount that is still owed and not covered by the rebates, the consumer will also have to sign a document saying that they are aware that they will owe more money after this install is done and the rebate has been paid out. Again, trying to minimize risk, fraud, and abuse of these programs by ensuring that the consumer is fully aware of what it is that they're signing up for. Okay, there will be certain data requirements. Of course, any DOE approved software is likely to meet these data requirements, but as you think about the kinds of information your sales and tech folks are collecting in the field right now, or what you might already be storing, these, if there's stuff on this list you're not already getting, then you might want to think about training up your people and having conversations about getting this information. Dwelling types, square footage, year built, utility company will need to be a part of that. There will be a need to both describe what's being replaced as well as what's being installed. There are other data points listed in this guide here. That this is a live link. When you get the PDF, feel free to click through and see a few more. Estimated total project cost will be required, of course, and then pictures of the installation will be required for quality assurance purposes. Okay, here's your moment of Zen. We've made it through one rebate program, the electrification rebate program, and woven into that, as I said, are some new information that may impact how you play in the space. Let's move on now to the homes rebate program. This is the whole house efficiency program. For this particular program, you don't have to income qualify, but if you are below 80% AMI as a household, you can get 2 times the rebate. The states with this program are required to allocate 40% of their funding, the rebate funding, towards low-income single family, and they have to have a carve-out of 10% for low-income multifamily. As with the electrification rebate program, there is a contractor incentive to complete work in a low-income home, and that incentive is capped at $200. The community benefits plan does require contractor engagement again for the rebate program and the workforce development. There is a requirement for a BPI 2400 utility bill calibration. And for that, the contractor will need to get 12 months of utility bills, historical utility bills from the homeowners, so that the software can ensure that there is an alignment between the actual energy usage of the house and the baseline energy usage that the modeling tool is projecting for the percentage of savings. There is a BPI 1200 standard referenced for the home energy audits, but the DOE has revised the guidelines from July to say that the contractor is not required to do a blower door. This is kind of a big deal. The information that one would have to collect for the assessment is fairly comprehensive, but adding the blower door requirement on top of it was kind of a bridge too far for some of the contractors I know I've spoken with. So heads up, the DOE has made an addendum to that. They are not going to require a blower door for the assessment. Proof of commissioning and the testing for the HVAC systems involved will be required. And the homes program does require a third-party certification in order to even access the rebate. Note to self, these are one of the things that third-party certification that Pearl provides. These are the particular rebates that are available. So as I said, if you are below 80% area median income, the rebate amount that you can get is double. The modeled rebates for this program, like electrification, are to be delivered within 4 weeks to the recipient. And states are also required to provide an acceptable method for low-income households not to have to use personal funds at point of sale to cover that rebated work. And so states are trying to figure out how they're going to make that happen for the homes program, because again, the other program is a point of sale rebate. This program, the rebates are reimbursable at the conclusion of the work, but it's not a point of sale, unlike the electrification. Okay, I want to talk for a moment now about this market transformation plan, because this was a new requirement that came out in the guidelines. 25% of the total rebate funding for both the electrification and the energy efficiency rebate programs is tied to the state's approved market transformation plan. This has to be submitted to the DOE within a year of their program implementation. And in it, the state must describe how it will enable the market to recognize the value of homes that have been upgraded through these rebate programs, including at time of sale or rental. And at a minimum, the plan has to include a strategy for aggregating home data from the home assessment or certification and making that data available to real estate stakeholders. So this idea of market transformation is related to the concept that you as contractors helping to create a higher performing home are in some ways also helping to create a home that is more valuable, that is worth more, because it costs less to own and operate. likely has better indoor air quality and certainly greater comfort. And buyers value this, but they can only value it, and appraisers can only value it if they see, understand, and know about the features that contribute to its performance. So part of what the rebate programs are seeking to do is to enact this market transformation flywheel by ensuring that information about these installations makes its way into a future resale transaction or a future appraisal. And I have the slide up here because I think it's important to understand that these are things that are already happening in the market today. This idea that higher performing homes should be worth more is not a concept, it's actually a reality. And this particular report that came out early in 2023 from Zonda shows that an HVAC electrification conversion is already providing a positive ROI to homeowners that have gone and done it. And we know this to be true with customers that have leveraged our certification as well. So let's talk a little bit about timelines. Right now, states are in the process of pulling their applications together for the grant. For some states, the applications are complicated enough that they're going to issue an RFP for another entity that runs programs, say like for utilities, to come in and help them put their application together. But once that application is submitted, then the DOE has to approve the application. Then that approval goes to procurement, and then finally the funding is released to the states. We had heard that Tennessee and Rhode Island are contemplating a quick start application, which would require them to launch their programs in 2023. Haven't heard any recent intel on that. We do know that a number of states, in fact, more than what's showing here, half of the states applied for early administrative fund grants. This would release 20% of their funding for them to staff up, for them to issue RFPs and do other sort of groundwork needed in order to move forward on the programs. There are states right now that have issued requests for information from vendors who might run aspects of their program. And then there are a handful of states that have issued requests for proposal for program implementers. So stuff is happening now, and we expect all of this to accelerate greatly going into Q1 of 24. If we had a crystal ball, I would probably tell you that it's not likely programs are going to launch before Q2 or Q3 of next year. There may be some states that are quicker to the starting gate because they have residential energy efficiency programs that are fairly robust already. And so they can kind of funnel this new funding into it and get things going quicker. But it is likely that the majority of the states really aren't going to get going on their launch for these programs until Q3 of next year, Q2, Q3 of next year, or later, depending on the state. Okay, here's your moment of Zen. We've gotten through the 2 rebate programs. Hooray. This, by the way, is my backyard. I live in Southwest Colorado, and this is what it looks like out in my backyard today. Euphemistically speaking, my backyard. All right, let's move on to the next and the last section of our rebate program, our IRA discussion today. Okay, these are the things that you as contractors really should be thinking about. Let's start out with what types of installs do you do today? Do you install high efficiency equipment on the regular? Do you install heat pumps, or have you primarily been focused on air conditioning and furnace installations? And, depending upon the answer to that question, how will IRA rebate programs impact the products that you sell? What type of work are you willing to do? Are you willing to do energy modeling? Because you've just heard that both of these programs are going to require some kind of energy modeling, and the whole house rebate program is going to require a bigger lift on that. If you're not willing to do energy modeling, are you interested in partnering with a HERS rater or a BPI building analyst, or somebody who can go in and do that front end work and develop a work scope for your team? Are you interested in doing insulation? There's certainly money available, rebates available for insulation. And if you're up in the attic anyway, replacing a unit, it's an opportunity to increase your work scope and provide a better experience and better building science experience as well for your customer. And you want to think about whether you want to pilot or partner now, as opposed to trying to get all of your ducks in a row at the point at which these programs are rolling out. Maybe you want to start thinking it through and doing some limited product offerings now to understand better what the impacts are going to be on your business and where the hiccups are going to come. Related to growing your lines of business, market share, lifetime value, these are all the questions around your customer base and what IRA can bring for you. You will need to think about the training, the tools, the software, the staffing that you're going to need. And there are other organizations out there, whether it's ACCA, NCI, BDR we partner with. I know that their coaches are doing a lot of work with their contractor teams, as is Clover, as are a whole host of others. So you don't have to, kind of swim in the deep end on your own. There are, of course, organizations out there that work very closely with contractors on their business evolution. And I would probably find one, a consultant at least, and sit down and work through these questions with them. So I would tell you 100% you should be leveraging those tax credits to upsell today. I would have information about them on my website. I would make sure that I'm tracking them. And even if your sales team is not talking about these tax credits, please remember that the homeowners are going to find out about them when it comes time to do their taxes. Their accountant or their tax software is going to let them know. So you really need to be preparing for that. If you're going to participate in these programs, your teams are going to have to know how to install higher end systems. So you're going to want to work with your manufacturers or your distributor to understand where you might get your inventory and what are best practices for installation. As you switch potentially to the products that you are selling, you want to understand your margins. If you're not already offering financing, I would suggest that you definitely look into opportunities for that. And I would be creating tags in my CRM for future sales when the rebates go live. So if you've got customers right now that are kind of worried about the high interest rates, they don't want to replace a system just yet, make sure that if you're band-aiding that system, that you're tagging them for outreach and marketing as soon as the rebates go live in your market. And I would begin thinking about the marketing content, credit lines, supply chain, as I mentioned, for qualifying systems, and a plan for how you're going to expand capacity. What avenues or options do you have there? And as much as you can, maybe start thinking about partnerships with other home service companies so that you can cross-sell each other's work, bring each other leads. And if you're going to add services for IRA rebates, by all means, please at least pilot that before the program's launch so that you're not getting an influx of customers at the same time that you're figuring out something is broken in your system. Okay, let's talk a little bit about consumer engagement. You might want to think about who's your typical customer segment. Are you targeting middle of the road? Do you work in a higher end neighborhood community? Are you looking to expand your customer segments? What rebates or tax credits do your typical customer base might your typical customer base qualify for? And then what sorts of messaging will you need to engage them on the upsell? I would have a homeowner FAQ and a web page on IRA set up. I would potentially have information to give them. Make sure that your sales team understands some of the basics related to the rebate programs and to the tax credits, what's available now. The more information without overloading your customer that you can bring to that conversation, the more knowledgeable you are, the more trust you're obviously going to generate with your homeowner. The rebate programs, the electrification is not retroactive. In theory, the whole house rebate program could be retroactive, but you would have to have met all of the requirements to take advantage of the rebate, including the utility bill calibration and the assessment and everything else. So I think for all intents and purposes, you might as well think that neither rebate program is really retroactive. So be careful not to promise a customer that if you upsell them today, they can take that rebate tomorrow, because that's not likely to be the case. Okay, I'm going to hand over the next few slides to my partner here at Pearl, Kevin Hunt, our VP of Industry Partnerships, who's going to talk to you a little bit about the program that we put together for Resideo pros and how you can benefit from it. And then we should still have time at the end for questions. Kevin.
Great. Thanks, Cynthia. I presume I can be heard. I am trying to show video, but oh, here we go. Thank you. Lots to take in. I think, before we open it up to questions, and I'm sure there are going to be a few, at a very high level, want to share a simple concept that we are in the business of kind of connecting the products that the folks on this call sell and install, like Resideo's and the Resideo brand, to creating more value and more equity in a home, which we don't think there are too many folks that work with contractors that do that. And we think to the degree that, or from what we hear from the contractors we work with today, is very helpful in changing the conversation that invariably gets kind of wrapped around price, to move it to value, and to provide the contractors that we work with a new and different way to differentiate and create some trust in the homeowner, ultimately making it a little bit easier to be able to sell kind of complete solutions to deliver energy efficiency to the homeowner, and helping you win more. Next slide. I think we might skip through a few of these, but without getting too sidetracked, it's not that expensive to work with us. So kind of summarized what it costs to include the services that we bring, and most prominently the certification of the install and the investment grade documentation, as a $20 bill for installing Resideo's connected products and services, and a small upfront cost to be able to get you trained and onboarded, and to set up the means for us to get all the information we need to deliver the certification to the homeowners that, as we heard earlier, is going to be required for the homeowner to take advantage of the homes rebate, and potentially thousands of dollars that will be put into the pocket of a homeowner that takes measures and makes investments to reduce their energy consumption. Next slide. Might go through this very quickly. Let's skip past this one, Cynthia. I'm sorry. And we'll skip past this. Just examples of some of the tools we have. This is the one thing I want, if you're interested, that URL in the center, pearlcertification.com/Resideo. This is a place to go and visit, and not only learn more about all the services we have, but you'll also be able to see and hear from contractors we've worked with for a very long time, most of them in the heating and cooling business. And to the extent that you see something interesting there, there's an invitation to book a call and to talk with one of our consultants, and be happy to talk about all that we can do for you. I should also mention that for any of you that are attending the Connect conference next week, we'll be there Thursday night at the reception that's being held for everyone. And on Friday late morning, I believe it's at 10:30. I've got to double check. There are a number of breakout sessions that are going to be held. And I'll be presenting and talking more about Pearl in conjunction with, I think, a finance company, all in the name of companies and or services that you might consider working with to win more business. So check the schedule for breakouts. I believe it's 10:30. I don't think you're going to see Pearl as a headliner, because we were kind of a late add to the program, but hope that any of you that are coming to Connect will swing by and see us at the reception next Thursday night, and even invest a little bit of time next Friday morning to attend the breakout. So that's what I have to say. I think we're at the end, and any good time, so to speak, I think, for any questions that have come up with all the information Cynthia's covered. Be a good time to bring them forward. So Dolores, not sure if we have any questions in the queue. Even if folks know how to submit a question, I think everybody should have a chat option at the bottom of their screen. It might be in the center of it. Actually, a Q&A button. I don't see any questions in there now, but perhaps just give it a few seconds, and if anybody's got a question, please put it in the Q&A line. It'll show up and Cynthia can handle them.
We hope.
Oh, of that I have
see
no
our
doubt.
first question. How does one go about getting a product list that qualify for the rebates? So if you're thinking about the HVAC, the link that I said to AHRI's CEE directory is the one that will give you that. Most of the product qualifications for rebates is Energy Star. So Energy Star appliances, if it's a cooktop or a dryer or something like that for the electrification. And then other things like insulation has to do with more the IECC building code that was appropriate for your area, as opposed to, say, the product itself. Like, I know many kinds of insulation qualify for that, as an example. What are you thinking contractors will charge for certifications? Kevin, did you want to take that one? I don't know.
Sure.
I'm going to assume it's for how we do business today, not how it works within IRA.
Yeah, so contractors pay Pearl a recurring fee each month. So you buy Pearl like you buy software and other marketing and sales services, and that monthly fee varies based on how many jobs you estimate that you would want to Pearl certify on a go-forward basis. And that's how the work the math out to be as low as $20 for a Resideo connected product and services installation. Most contractors don't line item out Pearl certification in the ultimate invoice they deliver to the homeowner, because the cost is so small. It's bundled in, and as the contractor sits down at the kitchen table, if you will, to talk about recommended products and services to install, they'll mention one of the things that the homeowner is going to get when they're done is the Pearl certification. And we've got materials to share and training that we put all of our contractors through to show how to integrate Pearl into the sales process and even the marketing and operations. So generally speaking, contractors include the cost of certification versus putting it as a line item, but we leave it up to contractors to determine what's appropriate based on the market they're in and the kind of customers that they're talking with. Hope that answers the question.
I put someone had asked about how to book a call, and if you go to the link that I put in the answer to the question, the pearlcertification.com/Resideo, there's a book a call button on that page. You can just click it and it puts up a Calendly link. In terms of states that have opted in and opted out of the program, we only know of one state that is publicly opted out of the program, and that's Florida. Every other state that we have heard of, including, it doesn't matter what your political persuasion is, all the other states that we have heard of so far sound like they're going to take their state's dollars. It is their taxpayer dollars that could be going back to those taxpayers in the form of these rebates. So Florida is the only one that we've heard of so far that isn't going to take their allotment. Let's see. I'm a distributor. How much can I charge my dealer base to certify their systems? I think that you and Kevin need to have a conversation. So I hope that you will reach out. Kevin, maybe you want to put your email address and type in the answer there for Rodney, and you all can follow up.
Absolutely.
And you're welcome, Michael. Let's see. Are there any other questions for us today? I think we've answered all of them that I can see in here. I know we will be having one other webinar in the series. It won't be me on the webinar this time. There will be some other folks from Pearl that will be talking. Well, we'll see. Maybe I'll be back, but we'll be talking a little bit more about how states may be going about implementing the programs as we get further intel. We're just going to keep you update so that you can stay up to date on your planning and how you're going to evolve your business.
Cynthia,
Okay.
thanks so much. I just wanted to add to that. That third webinar will be the first week of December, and we'll be emailing out those invitations in the next week or two.
Thank you, Dolores. Appreciate that.
Yes. Does anybody else have any other questions? You will be receiving a survey and a follow-up email after this webinar concludes. I want to thank everybody, especially Pearl Certification today, for presenting. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you for everyone who attended our webinar today. I hope you found it useful. Feel free to reach out and respond to the follow-up email if you have any further questions. And the recorded version of this will be sent out to all of you within a couple of days. Thanks so much for spending your afternoon with us today.
Well, one last thing.
Oh,
I
go ahead,
put in the
Kevin.
chat. Yeah, I put in the chat the link in the event folks didn't go in a Q&A to learn more about Pearl, and my contact info is in there as well. For those that want to connect with me, I can get you connected with the right person on our team. Thank you, Dolores, and thank you for all that attended.
Yes, thanks, everybody.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
All right,
Yep, have a
bye-bye.
great weekend. Take care.